Well, hello there, and welcome to a brand spanking new episode of the Melanin Mayhem podcast, hosted by your favorite country girl, Renee Davis. Oh, if this is your first time sliding through these Melanin Mayhem streets, welcome, sugar. Let me break it down to you for what it is that we do over here. You see, every Wednesday I'm gonna bring you the story of a heinous, I'm talking diabolical and downright negacious serial crime committed by a melanated baddie that you've probably never heard of. And that's okay, because that's what I'm here for. You know, despite the prolificness of the crime, our stories unfortunately get ignored by the mainstream media. So I'm out here, a one-woman band on a mission to dispel this pervasive myth out here that there are certain types of crimes that black people just don't commit. Ooh, I call bullshit on that. That is straight up propaganda. Cause sugar, we been out here criming it up serial style since way back when. The same thing that the Paw Patrol do, we do as well. So, now that I have hipped you to how we do what we do over here, go on ahead and grab a seat, pour you something strong, and govern yourselves accordingly. And to the ones that put the pep in my step, my boo things, I'm talking about my crime cousins. New Nation, what it do, boo boo? Loud. Baby, we made it through Ice Storm 2026, didn't we? Y'all all right? Baby, Mother Nature was out there showing out, wasn't she? And I ain't mind not one bit, because I'm going to tell you, the kitchen was stocked, the gas was flowing, and the power was too. I was getting my whole hibernation on. I came in my house Friday night, Saturday morning, and didn't leave out until Monday afternoon. I was in my PJs all weekend long. Just typing and eating, honey. That's all I did all weekend. I swear I have snacked my way through everything in the goddamn house. Let me hurry up and get up out of here, because baby, the country girl been munching real good. I'm gonna be big as a house around here fucking around with this weather. Okay, let's see. What do we have going on this month? Don't forget your tickets to the virtual Galantines Girls Night In event on February 7th with me and my girl Tiffany from Melanin Mysteries. The tickets are available on Eventbrite, and also you can find a link to the event in the show notes as well as on the social media pages. Before we get into today's case, I had a little something on my heart, and I wanted to just throw a quick word out here for the creators and potential creators out here in my listeners' land. I created an e-guide for you. There's a lot of people out here who are thinking about getting into the creative spaces, and you've got questions, right? Maybe you've got a story that you'd want to tell, but you're not exactly sure what to do with it or how to format or whatever your case may be. I created, like I said, an e-guide. It's called From Case to Compelling. It's a digital download, and it breaks down how I turn raw facts into a structured, engaged podcast, right? Without all the fluff and the gatekeeping. So if you got the case but need some help with your craft, the link is in the show notes. I encourage you to take a look at From Case to Compelling, and it is available on the website. That's melaninmayhempodcast.com. Now, I think that's all I got for announcements this week. So let's go on ahead and get in it, because baby, I have bought y'all a motherfucker today. Let me tell you, we have had some booger bears on this podcast. I mean, I have introduced y'all to some of the lowest of the low, the diabolicalist of the diabolical. And today, I got one of the most negacious niggas that ever did some niggerish shenanigans. There is audacity, and then there is, I can't believe you just did that shit. and the motherfucker today, y'all ain't gonna believe the shit that he did and how he did what he did when he was doing what he was doing. And I have to let you know, this case, this guy, he wasn't interested in the marginal woman. Oh, no. He didn't want no pimp dot pussy. He didn't want no crack dot coochie. That was not his thing. Oh, no, honey. He preferred the kind of woman that makes the news immediately when some shit happens. Oh, yes, honey. Our mayhem maker like to dip it and do it with the marshmallow and mommies, honey. And his crimes was loud as fuck, even though they was quiet as fuck when it was going down. Baby, this tale gonna have you cussing and clutching pearls because this nigga was a whole ass problem. So let me just go on ahead and drag this trifling, conniving, diabolical ass motherfucker to the front of the congregation for a proper read. This week's Melanin Mayhem maker is Mr. Timothy Wilson Spencer, aka the Southside Strangler. Let's go on ahead and get into it. Now, Timothy Wilson Spencer was born July 13th, 1962 in Richmond, Virginia. His mama, her name was Thelma Spencer, and I have no idea who his pappy was. All I know is that him and Thelma was married, and they got a divorce, and Papa Spencer dipped, and Thelma was left to raise the children as a single mother. You know, she worked and she provided for her kids, and we talking plural because Timothy, he had a little brother named Travis, and according to little brother Travis, they had a great childhood. Like, mama made miracles happen, right? They had family dinners around the table. Like, Tim was, yes, being raised in a single parent home, but Miss Thelma, oh, she made it do what it do, baby. So Travis say his big brother taught him how to ride a bike, and he looked out for him. He did all the things that a big brother is supposed to do. Now, but as a young man, I gotta tell you, first and foremost, Timothy was easy on the eyes for the peoples, you know. He was one of them little light brown boys with hazel eyes, a little decent gray to hair. So, you know, people would try to be sweet on him a little bit. That kind of eased the way. So I have no idea what the fuck happened to this man, because Timothy is just turned into the bad seed, honey. When I tell y'all he started jumping off the porch when he was young as fuck, I'm talking 9 years old. So this little motherfucker was doing trifling shit when he was in grade school, like not putting forth no effort whatsoever into anything educational. Instead, they say at the school, Timothy preferred to shit and piss in public areas of the school. Okay. Who the fuck takes a dump at the front door of the school? Timothy, that's not stuff that the Wakandians do. We don't do that shit, but clearly we did, because Timothy was up here. He was a little touched motherfucker. So Miss Thelma, she was staying up at the school because Timothy was always into some shit. Literally. And so school was not his ministry. So then he started terrorizing the neighborhood, right? And he was a little sticky finger motherfucker. Anything that wasn't tied down, Timothy's ass was probably gonna steal or take, right? He was gonna get that shit. But here's the thing. Little Timothy was not good at it. I mean, he stayed getting caught. Sir, you already got a record, and you ain't even a legal little nigga yet, right? You the youngest of the YNs at this point. And so, as we move on, it ain't the school calling Miss Thelma no more. It's the popo knocking on her door looking for Timothy's little ass, right? But as he gets a little older, you know, into the teenage years firmly, Timothy picked up a new hobby. This little YN started setting shit on fire. On fire again, not some shit typical Wakandians do, but I'm reporting the news. So Timothy likes to set shit on fire, including his mama, Miss Thelma, her car. Baby, oh hell to the now, nigga, you got to go when you starting to set fire to the whip. So you know, Miss Thelma put Timothy out, and he was for sure for the streets at that point. So Timothy, he would catch his first big boy charge right around the age of 20 when he gets popped for a burglary. got caught up in the midst of some breaking and entering, and he was arrested in December 1982, and he was locked down to like May 1983. So we talking about, what, 5 months and some change? But Timothy would not stay breathing free air long. Because, if they're shenan once, oh, baby, they gon' shenan again. Baby. So it's like January 1984, and Timothy is arrested for burglary one more again. But let me tell you what happened the week before Timothy got popped. Give you a little context for this little story that we're going to tell. Now, between 1984 and 1987, women in Richmond and Arlington, Virginia, they started turning up raped, and then they started turning up dead. And it ain't just rape is bad enough, but these were really, really bad cases. I'm talking torture, strangulations, bad sexual assaults. And the most terrorizing part of all of this is that these assaults happened in these women's homes. Like, they were violated, silenced, and discarded in their shit, right? And law enforcement, they didn't know what or who they was dealing with. And it all really started with a woman named Carolyn Ham. Now, Carolyn was 32 years old, and she was a lawyer. And on January 25th, 1984, Carolyn didn't show up for work. And baby, that was totally out of character for her. So her colleagues called, didn't get no answer. Her friends, they called in too. But nobody could get a hold to Carolyn. So a couple of days go by, and the friends was like, fuck this shit. We finna go check on our good sis. And they found, when they got to Carolyn's house, oh baby, Carolyn had been walking in the valley of the shadow of death for a couple of days. And Carolyn, she didn't pass on from natural causes either. No. Carolyn was found hog-tied with a cord snatched from the blinds at the window, tied up so that the cord was not only binding her wrist and her ankles, but that shit was also wrapped around her neck. So basically, anytime she moved, she'd be choking the shit out of herself, and the person who assaulted her was also choking the shit out of her, right? Carolyn was naked as a jaybird, and she was literally hanging, trussed up like a piece of meat. And baby, they say it was an awful scene. Now, understand, Carolyn lived in what they call a safe neighborhood. You know what I'm saying? Things like this don't happen to good upstanding members of the Claritine Collective. Carolyn was a lawyer. Who would have done something like this? This is terrible. And police don't know because the killer didn't leave nothing behind except for copious amounts of salted testicle juices. Nasty motherfucker. But no prints, no hairs, no fibers. But one of the neighbors thinks they saw a local Latino man with Carolyn the day they think she went missing. Maybe he the killer. So, police, they do what they do, and they track down this Latino man whose name is David Vasquez. Now, David, he work around the town doing all kinds of little odd jobs, little quiet man, shy, and a people-pleasing demeanor. Now, at the time when Carolyn was being killed, David was working at the McDonald's as the cleanup man. They had him, sweeping and mopping and cleaning off the tables and stuff like that. They didn't let him work the register. They didn't let him work the grill or the fries. He was the cleanup man. So the police, they go and pick up David, and they ask him, David, where were you the night when Carolyn Ham was killed? And so David says, I was at work. And this, at this point, should have been a very easy alibi to confirm. It's McDonald's. You go down to the McDonald's and you say, hey, McDonald's manager, was David Vasquez working on January 25th, 24th, 23rd, whatever the date is you think this happened to Carolyn? You can find out if David was at work. I would think that's I ain't no cop. I don't even play one on TV, but I would think that would be pretty easy to confirm or dismiss that alibi. But for whatever reason, the Richmond PD was like, fuck all that. David, we got your prints at Carolyn's house. What the fuck was you doing over there? And so David was like, oh, okay. Well, maybe I wasn't at work if y'all say I was over Carolyn's house. What we do? And the police was like, you know what you did? You killed Carolyn. And David was like, I did? And Richmond PD was like, sure did. So tell us how you did it, David. And so David, looking bewildered, is like, I stabbed her till she died. And the detectives was like, that ain't what you did. You hung Carolyn. And so David was like, oh, okay, I hung her. By the end of the interrogation, David said that he had a dream that he broke into this woman's house and tortured her and hung her, left her out there to dry. Maybe. I think I got the story right. That's what y'all said I did, right? Okay, yeah, that's what I did. And so at that point, the police charged David Vasquez with Carolyn Ham's heinous murder. Y'all see where this is going. We get to trial really quick in this case, and at his trial, David's court appointants, they told him, look here, David, shit looking bad for you. You need to plead out to a lesser charge if you ever want to see a toilet that ain't got a sink attached to it again in life. You know what I'm saying? And so David was like, y'all think that's what I need to do? Okay, well, fine, then I'll do that. And so David did. He pled to a lesser charge, and he was sentenced to 35 years in prison for the second-degree murder of Carolyn Ham. And off to be state property, David Vasquez goes. And the Richmond PD, they pat themselves on the back. We did a great job here. We've solved the case, and we are keeping our citizens safe. That little situation there happened a week before Timothy, our mayhem maker. It happened the week before he got popped for that second burglary. So Carolyn dies, Timothy gets popped for a burglary, and then he goes off to prison and do a little 3-year bid. But he is back on the streets and in the halfway house, this time in Richmond, Virginia, in September 1987. Okay? So, we already know what a halfway house is, right? Y'all know, it's the transition point, if you will, for a convict that's exiting prison on the way to being a fully free individual. And in Timothy's case, when he got out, he stayed true to himself. He was a loner. He stayed to himself at the halfway house. He ain't make no friends. He ain't want to hang out with nobody. But he did get cool with one of the ladies that worked there. You see, he would fix her car for on the low, and in return, she was so grateful because Timothy was such a sweet man, quiet and sweet, and he good with his hands. He fixed my car for little or nothing. So, she would let him drive her car because, Timothy said he liked to go over to the Cloverleaf Mall and hang out when he had free time. And this is the 80s. That's what we did. We went and hung out at the mall. So there's nothing strange about that. Timothy is a young man. He want to go hang out at the mall. That makes perfect sense. Now, I'm sure that there should have been some rules against fraternizations and shit like that between halfway house employees and the motherfuckers that's residents of the halfway house. But, it seems that the rules at this here halfway house was a little what they call lax, right? And so, yeah, Timothy, he wanted to go over to the mall and hang out. So that's what the fuck he did, right? He's mobile, right? He got a car at his disposal, which I don't think he's supposed to have, but having this car gives him the freedom that he gonna need for his next criminalistic endeavors. I mean, what could possibly go wrong? Especially with this halfway house being so lax in the supervision of its residents, because, normally residents supposed to sign in and out every time they leave, and they supposed to be in the house at a certain time, right? You can go to work, you might can go visit your people, whatever, go to an appointment, go report in with your PO or whatever, but you're supposed to be back here at a certain time. You got to get permission. We got to know where you're going. That's how it's supposed to work, right? Well, Timothy, they say, was up in that bed coming and going as he pleased, and nobody over there in a position of authority reported any of this to anybody. Well, let me tell you what happened next. Now, yeah, we know this nigga Tim, he presents as this quiet, soft-spoken man when he's around people. But baby, Timothy Spencer, oh, he got a sadistic, aggressive, predator side to him that nobody except those unlucky enough to draw his attention would ever know about. Now, it all started for the second time with a woman named Deborah Davis. Deborah worked for Style magazine. Y'all might have seen that. And that was her full-time gig, But she also had a little part-time situation at Walden Books in the Cloverleaf Mall. Do y'all remember Walden Books? I used to love that place, baby. Y'all know reading is my ministry, baby. And that used to be my jam back in the day. You know what? That ain't got nothing to do with what I'm about to tell y'all. Forget what I just said. Y'all know I get off track sometimes. Oh, okay, let me stay on track. So Debbie is also a member in good standing of the Caucastical Casserole clan. She 35 years old. She got her own shit, a little spot over in the Westover Hills area of Richmond, Virginia. A little up and coming area full of other people who are up and coming. You know what I'm saying? They say Deborah was a quiet woman and, good friend to all. And she was known to bake cakes and things for the peoples that she fucked with, right? Now, what I need you to understand is on September 19th, 1987, some serious shit went down, and it all started with a rocking chair. Now, Deborah lived on the first floor of her apartment building, but even though it was on the first floor, the windows to her apartment were up high. Like, you standing on the ground, you cannot look into Deborah's windows. Even standing on, let's say, a chair, you still got to do some good maneuvering to get to the window to Debbie's house, right? This motherfucker took a rocking chair off of somebody's porch and propped it under Debbie's kitchen window and used that rocking chair to stand on and let himself into Debbie's apartment. Now, I need you to understand. This is a nimble surfboard riding motherfucker because a rocking chair? And like I said, this goddamn window is up high. So you got to perch and tip up on this goddamn chair. And you still got to climb up the side of the building to really get to this little window at Debbie's kitchen. It's just a little small window over the sink, right? Some kind of way this man used this rocking chair and got up to that window and came into Debbie's apartment, right? Now, this little nigga must be Spider-Man. I can't get over this. Have you ever tried to stand on a rocking chair? Like, that's a recipe for a broke hip or some shit like that, right? It's like standing on a desk chair to change a light bulb. But yeah, this nigga Timmy, he did that shit and he shimmied his way into Deborah's apartment. And he waited for her to come home. Just laying in wait, going through her shit. Not only that, this motherfucker is in her house taking shit and making a torture device, if you will. Oh yes, honey. Let me tell you, this stinking motherfucker made some kind of tourniquet type of situation out of some socks. Now think about it. A tourniquet is what you put on if you're bleeding real bad and you need to stop the bleeding. You wrap something around whatever it is, your arm, your leg, whatever, and you kind of have a stick or something that you can twist and you can make that thing that's around you tight as fuck, because the more you turn that stick, the tighter whatever is around you is, it's gonna cut off the circulation so you don't bleed to death. So he up in her house, he done made this little homemade tourniquet type of situation out of some socks and a vacuum cleaner hose. Like, this nigga is really MacGyvering some reparation tools in this lady house to use on her when she walk in the door of her own ass house. A trifling bastard. Y'all, this stinking ass degenerate really tortured that woman. And like, I'm legit not using that term lightly. She walks into her house and there is a sadistic monster waiting on her. And he starts beating on her. And he rapes her. And he chokes her until she passes out. And then he revives her and does it all over again. Y'all, he did this for hours. And I told y'all, Deborah lives in an apartment. An apartment. There are people all around her, right? This motherfucker got this motherfucking rope-a-dope choker that he done made out these socks and this vacuum hose. And the socks is around Debbie's throat. And the hose is some kind of way looped through the socks. So he can just twist the hose and strangle the fuck out of Deborah so that she can't speak. She can't breathe. She can't make a sound to alert none of the people that are around her. There's some shit going on in her apartment. This motherfucker hog-tied Deborah with a pair of shoelaces. One hand behind her back, tied to her leg, wrapped around that motherfucking reparation tool around her goddamn throat. Like, hog-tied. Ooh, my sweet black Jesus. Now, again, I can't stress this enough. Debbie lives in an apartment. So this lets you know that this torture, choky thingamajig that Timothy done made, that motherfucker was the truth. That lady couldn't get a breath, much less a sound. Oh my God. Baby, they find Debbie. And finding her was an actual complete humbug. Like, they found Debbie's body kind of by accident. How about this? Somebody in the neighborhood sees a car and the car door is kind of open, but the car is running. It's over on Forest Hill Avenue in Richmond, right? Now, this car, ain't nobody around, ain't nobody in it, but the car is running, and it's been running for quite some time. You know, nosy people looking. The car been here for a couple of hours now. People don't just leave cars running, right? So this is one of those neighborhoods where the people call the cops rather than steal your shit when they find it open, running with the keys in the ignition. So the cops come and they run the plates, and they see that it belongs to Deborah Davis, who just so happens to stay down the block a little ways, right? So the police, they decide they're finna go to Debbie's house because clearly, you know, maybe some shit happened and I don't know, but we need to go talk to Deborah and see why is her car up the street running, right? So they get to Debbie's house, and that's how they stumble across Debbie's dead body. Had it not been for the car, they might not have known about Debbie till that following week sometime when she didn't show up for work. But here's the kicker, y'all. When the police processed the crime scene, Deborah's apartment, even though this monkey mouth motherfucker spent hours in this woman's house, he didn't leave behind nothing that they could use at the time. No fingerprints. This nigga was wiping me down like Webby up in that bitch. He ain't leave no hairs. He didn't leave no fibers. Just semen. Lots and lots of semen. Like, no joke, this nigga was skeeting all over this woman's house. But this is 1987, and in solving the whodunits, the police rely on fingerprints and blood and fibers and witnesses, none of which they had with poor Deborah. All that baby battle was useless because the tools to analyze that shit were still in the process of being invented, right? So Debbie's vicious assault and her murder, it goes into the unsolved file. Now, I told y'all, this is a nice section of town, and the peoples was shooketh, cause what the fuck? This type of shit that happened to Debbie don't happen around here. The Salt Gang is clutching pearls, and they want answers. But the police, they ain't got no answers. And then, 2 weeks later, this sadistic, strangling, pussy snatching, sodomizing son of a bitch strikes again. Dr. Susan Helms. She was 32 years old, and you heard me call her doctor. She was a motherfucking neurosurgeon. Like, she's smart, right? A beast with it. And Dr. Helms, if you didn't tell by the name, is also a member in good standing of the Sour Creamians. And Dr. Helms and her husband lived in a nice house not too far from where Debbie lived. And on October 2nd, 1987, some real nigga bullshit went down at the doctor's house. Now, they think it started on October 2nd. But it wasn't until the following morning, in the wee hours of the morning, October 3rd, when the good doctor's husband came home from his shift at work, around 2 in the morning. He come in the house. The house is quiet. He just making his way through. His baby probably in the bed, sleep. She probably done work the night shift or whatever. He make his way to the bedroom, turn on the light, and there go his wife laying in the closet. But Dr. Helms ain't here no more. No, y'all. Dr. Helms is gone on to the upper room. Child, just like Debbie. Dr. Susan has been worked over like he opened up a extra large can of whoop ass on the doctor. Ooh, baby, just like at Debbie's house, this sneaky motherfucker was waiting inside this woman's house. This slimy bastard was back on some Spider-Man shit too, cause he came in the house through a window on the 2nd floor. Like, how the fuck did this nigga scale this motherfucking house? I don't know how he did it, but he did it. They said that there was a window that had been left up on the 2nd floor, and he just came through that bitch, and he laid in wait, waiting on Dr. Susan to get home. And just like at Debbie, he was up there going through they shit, putting some shit together to make a little bootleg choker to use on this woman. Now, the doctor had been out and about that day. At some point, she had made a stop over at the Cloverleaf Mall. It's that evening. She comes in her room. She takes her earrings off, her watch, and probably went to her closet. Probably take that bra off. We like to take that bra off. But at some point in time after she took her jewelry off, that's when she was surprised attacked. Y'all, the doctor didn't stand a chance. Not a chance in hell. Her husband was at work, so ain't nobody in the house but her. Ain't nobody coming home no time soon. So once again, this nigga got all the time in the world to fuck Susan up. And fuck Susan up he did. Oh, baby, the detectives say Susan's murder was one of the most brutal attacks that he had ever seen in his life. Once again, she was hog-tied with one of her husband's ties. He beat her, and he raped her, and he sodomized her, and he choked her till she passed out, and then he would revive her and do it again and again and again. And just like at Debbie's house, for such a nasty nigga, he ain't leave nothing behind that could be used to identify his ass. No fingerprints. He wiped everything down. No hairs. No fibers, nothing but a shitload of semen. Once again, he's skeeting all over the place. Ain't nothing the popo can do with all this baby batter, because again, the testing for the baby batter still ain't ready yet. So, Dr. Helms' case goes in the unsolved basket right along with Deborah Davis's case. But understand, we wasn't dealing with some random marginal women here. Oh, no. These was 2 upstanding members of the Colorless Coalition, and they was unalived in a most despicable way in their own homes, tortured for hours by a motherfucker that didn't leave nothing but unborn children behind. And so, in this good gentrified Salt Gang neighborhood, that shit was not to be tolerated. Oh, hell to the no. After this 2nd murderation, baby, understand the Richmond police understood with no hesitancy that they had a sadistic serial raping motherfucker on the loose. They recognized the pattern immediately. It didn't take no time, y'all. 2 women, they got it down pat. We got a serial killer on the loose. So immediately, police step up patrols in the area. Oh, they wasn't done with just the patrols. Oh, baby, they created a special task force to investigate these killations, these 2 killations. Oh, they went out and told the peoples, hey, make sure your shit is locked up tight. Check your windows, check your doors. Hey, if you can, try not to be alone in your house. Use the buddy system. Some shit is going down, and until we get a hold to this shit, we want y'all to be safe. Because again, this is a gentrified neighborhood in Richmond, Virginia. But then it went quiet in Richmond. But just because it was quiet over there, don't mean it wasn't going down somewhere else. Because a nigga with access to a car can go anywhere he want to. And this nigga we talking about here, oh, he's diabolical, y'all. Like, again, I have bought y'all some negacious ass motherfuckers on this here podcast, but this here motherfucker here, ooh, he oozes negacity out his pores right along with all that goddamn baby battle. And this next one takes the motherfucking cake in so many ways, y'all. So the next victim was a child, a minor, 15-year-old Diane Cho. She was a freshman at Manchester High School in Chesterfield, Virginia. Now, just by her name and her age, you know that this baby still living home with her parents, who had immigrated to the United States from South Korea in 1983. They ain't even been here but a few years. And they had only moved to Chesterfield just a few months prior, so they are really new to this area of Virginia. Now, Diane, like I said, lives in this apartment with her parents and her brother. I need you to hear me when I say this apartment, y'all. We're talking about a little 3-bedroom situation. We are not talking about a mansion or anything like that, but a modest 3-bedroom apartment. It's got 3 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, a living room, and a kitchen. That particular day, Diane had dinner in the kitchen at the table with her family. It's November 22nd, 1987. After dinner, you know, they all kicked it family style till around about 11:30ish, whatever. And then Diane went on to her room for the rest of the night, as did the rest of the family. Her mom and daddy went to their room. Her brother went to his room. We calling it a night. That's what you do with the family, right? Everybody in this apartment is present and accounted for. The doors are locked. We'll see you in the morning. Baby, tell me why the next morning the Chos, we talking about mama and daddy Cho, they left because, you know, stereotypical as it may sound, they had a store in Richmond that they ran, so they was up at the crack of dawn to go out the door and handle their business at the store. So they left Diane and her brother at home. They didn't wake Diane and them up. They didn't pop in Diane's room to say, hey, we gone, nothing like that. They just got up, did their routine, going to open up the store, right? They do what they do. Diane's brother gets up. He just chilling at the house. But Diane ain't came out her room yet. So the Chos, mama and daddy Cho, they come back to the apartment around 3 o'clock that afternoon. Walk in the door, they see Diane's brother. Hey, where Diane at? Diane still ain't up. So younger brother say he just been kicking it, eating cereal, watching TV all morning. So, you know, we can't have that. This is not what we do in this type of household. You're not going to lay your ass around. Come on now. Stereotypes are based on fact, right? So Mama Cho is like, hey, Diane, get your ass up. Baby, that woman opened her daughter's bedroom door and ran into a situation that no parent should ever, and I do mean ever, be exposed to in no way, shape, form, or fashion. Diane is in her room, dead. Not just dead, but dead and tortured. Dead, tortured, raped, beaten, murdered. All the while, her family was on the other side of the motherfucking wall. Woo, sweet black Jesus. I told y'all, the negacity was off the motherfucking charts. Like, this shit here blowed me. Because all I can see in my head is, I done lived in an apartment with my mama and them. I can't imagine that the way we know Timothy like to get down when he getting down, that this shit happened while her entire family were on the other side of her bedroom wall. Let me tell you what happened. They say Diane liked to leave her window up. And she had a friend that lived upstairs, and they would just, peep their head out and talk to each other through the window, right? And this resonates with me because I am country through and through, y'all. I live for a good window being up, right? Give me some of God's out any day, as long as it ain't the middle of summer when it's hot as the hinges of hell. So this one really had my flabbergasted because, again, I'm country and I stay with a window up, and this real Spider-Man ass, trifling, stinking, sneaky motherfuckers that will scale a whole ass wall, climbing up the side of a building to do some shenanigans. And that really has me fucking shook. Like, I really thought, because I am good for leaving my windows up upstairs, because literally I'm thinking, who the fuck gonna climb up here? You gonna need a ladder to get up here. Clearly not, because Diane has been hogtied, just like Debbie and Dr. Susan. She has been raped. She has been strangled. She has been tortured repeatedly. They also see that this time, this raper who raped Diane took a bottle of fingernail polish and drew an infinity symbol on Diane's thigh. Now, I can't imagine the Cho's anguish. Like, it's one thing to lose a kid. That's unnatural in and of itself. But to lose a kid and you was right there in the house, that's a mind fuck that as a parent, I don't think I would ever in my life get over. It's one thing to find out that something has happened to your child and you were nowhere around. You know what I'm saying? It's terrible. But to have been in the house, in the room next door, shit, and you ain't heard nothing, and this is not like a suicide, what one would think as a quiet crime, where maybe Diane took some pills and went to sleep and didn't wake up no more. No, she was beat. How the fuck you beat a motherfucker and no sounds are made? She was tortured, she was raped, she was sodomized, she was choked the fuck out. And her parents and her brother were right next door. My heart breaks for these people who I don't know from Adam's house cat. I pray and hope that there was counseling, there was the Lord, something that got them through, because, woo, sweet Jesus. But yeah. So now Diane lives in Chesterfield, but where she lives is right across the border, and it's a straight shot to Debbie and Dr. Susan's neighborhood in Richmond. We're talking about like 5.5 miles between all three of these murder scenes. So it's not no big old jump as to, just because it's in Chesterfield. Now, the police, they tight. Ooh, they tight about this shit because the media is having a field day talking shit about the goddamn strangling man that's out here killing at will. And they done gave this motherfucker a nickname. They calling him the Southside Strangler. Ooh, so, the police can't be out here flat-footed, so they go and get an assist from the FBI. Hey, FBI, we need some help. Can you give us a profile on who might be torturing and raping and murdering people in our area? Can you help us find out who this murdering motherfucker is? And of course, when the FBI put their 2 cents in, they said, what you're looking for here is a white man, around 30 years old. That's who's doing all this felonious fuckery in Virginia. And this probably is not his first rodeo. Oh no, because this motherfucker done got his weight up somewhere to be so comfortable and so good at doing what it is that he do. It's always a white man, ain't it? They said, oh yes, he's intelligent. He's a loner. He ain't gonna be out here in these streets talking about what he doing. And he like to hunt at night. So, much like as what happened in Deborah Davis and Dr. Susan's case, no evidence left behind except for a boatload of baby battle. Yeah, Nay, we know. Ain't nothing we can do with that. Except, at this point, by the time Diane unfortunately goes and meets her maker, we actually can do something with this baby battle. See, at this point in 1987, there's this new testing that's out that everybody's talking about. What they call it? They call it DNA fingerprinting. Ooh, and they say this shit gonna change the game. Yeah. It can take that baby battle, that semen, and see the men that left that shit behind. Oh, yeah. And oh, wait a minute. One more thing happened with Diane Cho. The killer left behind one single hair on the sheet that he used to cover Diane up with. One single hair. And what they found out with this hair? The motherfucker who left this hair is a Negro. So the police is like, oh shit, wait a minute. It ain't a white man? You mean a Wakandian did this? All of this? Oh, hell to the no. We must find this heinous killer. Now, our next victim, we got another Susan. Not a doctor this time. This is 44-year-old Susan Tucker. And Susan Tucker lived in Arlington, Virginia. Arlington is about an hour and 45 minutes away from Richmond. But it's not that far from where Diane Cho lived. And Arlington is also where your boy Timothy is from. And at this particular time, it is the holiday season. It's coming up on Thanksgiving. And guess who got a Thanksgiving pass to go to his mama's house and spend the holiday with her? Our boy Timothy. So he is in the area, and Susan Tucker don't live that far from where his mama stay. So Susan, she lives in an apartment. She was a good neighbor or whatever. But a couple of days have gone by and ain't nobody seen Susan. So, again, in these types of neighborhoods, that shit is not what happens. So a neighbor raises the alarm because it just was not like Susan to go no contact like that. So the police, they come and do a welfare check on her second floor apartment. And when they opened the door to Susan's apartment, they found Susan disconnected and no longer in service. December 1st, 1987. Now, they think that a water was turned off somewhere around Thanksgiving Day, November 27th. That was just 5 days after Diane Cho got. And as with all the rest of them, the shit's a bad scene. Like, this killing ass killer, he came through a little ass window in the basement. And just like the preceding victims, Susan has been hog-tied with a rope. She has been tortured. She has been beaten. She has been raped. She has been sodomized. She has been strangled again and again and again. No fingerprints, no fibers, no hairs. Just what the police call an abnormally large contribution of excessive biological enthusiasm left all over Susan's shit. Just skeet, motherfucker. God damn. Pause for a minute before I go on. What really tripped me out in this whole case is at every scene, they talk about what happened, but they also really make clear that this motherfucker nutted every goddamn well. And it was a lot of goddamn nut. Like, what the fuck? Is you backed up? Like, what the fuck is you doing? Spraying these... That's not the point, Nay, don't get caught up in it. But for real, abnormally large, like, I have questions. Now, that is not the point. Reel it in, Nate. Reel it in. Because, y'all, my mind is really over here on this abnormally large, copious amounts of semen. Let's talk about the bindings. Because I've told you how these women are tied up, hog-tied, every last one of them. The bindings that this crunchy, skeeting ass nigga is using is all the same type of figure 8, kind of an infinity knot. So it didn't matter if he used a sock or a rope or a cord from the blind or whatever. All of the knots that he tied were the same type of knot. So if it's the same type of knot, it's got to be the same perk that's doing all of this shit. And we know from Diane Cho that the motherfucker that's doing is a nigga. So, y'all know, when some real bad shit happen, the police will reach out to see if there are any other Leo counterparts, law enforcement officers that have ever seen some shit like what it is that they're going through. And in this case, Arlington was like, look, We got white women that are being brutalized by a motherfucker that don't leave nothing behind but a shit ton of watermelon seed. Has anybody seen anything like this? And lo and behold, Richmond police was like, yes, President accounted for it. We got that same shit going on over here. And so Richmond and Arlington, they start comparing notes, which is amazing because, you know, when the victims are marginal black women, it takes these police officers forever to compare notes. It takes them forever to see the pattern. But goddamn it, these motherfuckers is on they shit now, boy. And so they comparing notes and they feel pretty damn confident that they are looking for the same motherfucker. Now, it's also around this point that the police kind of get a lead in these cases. It looks like all of the victims do actually have something in common. They're not as random as they seem. The Cloverleaf Mall is what they all got in common. Debbie worked there in the bookstore, you know, Walden Books, and everybody else shopped there. Diane Cho, she's a teenager. Of course she's been to Cloverleaf Mall. Could this be where the victims were stalked when it all went down? I mean, think about it. Back in the day, you could sit around at the mall and people watch all day long and not look creepy. You would just blend in. So, police are thinking this might be what ties all of these cases together, right? So, now the detectives that are working this case, now that they know that they're looking for a black man, they trying to rack their brains about who it could possibly be. So, you know, this is a metropolitan area, but it's country, it's small. So the local police departments are like, okay, let's go back through the old case files and see who do we have that might fit the bill. They started looking at prison sentences and cross-referencing who was here when all this shit was going down. And so one of the detectives, while they doing all this looking and thinking and deep diving, they like, okay, we know all the victims was at the mall. Okay, we got a mall. Maybe that's where he's picking them up at. That's where he's finding them. Okay. So then he lets his mind wander back a little bit more because the heinousness of the crimes got some niggling at the back of his brain. And he thinks about it a little bit longer, and then he remembers the murder of Carolyn Hams back in 1984. And how all of these nucleations was exactly the way Carolyn Ham was murdered. Wait a goddamn minute though. Ain't it a man already doing time for Carolyn Ham's murder? Sure is. They look it up. We already supposedly got our man. Maybe he ain't the killer. He wasn't. The detective went down to the prison and did one interview with David Vasquez and knew instantly that they had done fucked up. The man that had killed Carolyn also killed Debbie, also killed Dr. Susan, also killed Diane, and also killed Susan number 2. Now, at this point, they finna be on some super duper police investigating, right? Because these detectives are literally now going through all the old YN cases from back in the day, and somehow, some way, Timothy Spencer's bad ass pops up. And so they look up Tim in the system. And god damn it if it don't fit the timeline. He went to jail right after Carolyn got. So that explains why it was such a big gap between when Carolyn was murdered and when the next woman was murdered like that. Deborah's murder, right? Because he got out of prison and went to the halfway house that wasn't far from Debbie's house a couple of weeks before Debbie got. So it's making sense. All of the shit is falling into place. They go snatch Timothy's monkey ass up because, hey, Timothy's at the halfway house. They get Timothy down to the station. Baby, Tim did not know any of these women like Peter did Jesus. I don't know what you're talking about. I ain't never seen these white women a day in my life. I don't know this woman. I don't know this girl. I don't know none of these people. Why you asking me these questions? The police are like, okay, Timothy. Hey, so, can we get a little cheek swab from you? And Timothy was like, shit, I don't give a fuck. Sure, get this motherfucker. You see, Timothy was under the mistaken impression that the police couldn't test for bodily fluids to prove identity because up until this point, that was not a thing. So the police, they get a DNA sample from Timothy willingly, and then they go test that shit against all these victims, and baby, the shit came back that it was Timothy's punk ass, the lever of all that juice of the Jangling Johns. I'm talking about the Peter Skeeter juice man. Yes, honey, it was you, nigga. Oh, baby, they quickly arrested Timothy's ass and took him to trial for the last murder, Susan Tucker. Now, I mean, they had a lot of circumstantial evidence, but they also had this brand new DNA technology called DNA fingerprinting. And the DNA fingerprinting in Timothy's case said the chances of anybody else having left behind all them secretions in Susan Tucker's house other than Tim was 720 million to 1. Baby, the jury was like, shit, the math is mathing. After deliberating for about an hour, they found Timothy Spencer guilty on July 16, 1988. Now, I gotta tell you, we got some history that goes on at this point. At this point in time, when they found Spencer guilty and gave him the death penalty, Spencer made history. He is the first person in the United States to be sentenced to death using DNA testing to convict him. Now, I have to point out, I want you to understand that again, he made history. He was the first person in the state of Virginia to ever be convicted using DNA. He is the first person in the United States to be sentenced to death after being convicted from DNA testing. And I have another little fascinating tidbit about this whole situation. Now, like I said convicted on a death penalty case. Tim is the first one, but just a couple of months before Tim was the actual first motherfucker to ever be convicted, period, using DNA testing. And it was a nigga named Tommy Lee Andrews in Orlando, Florida. He was convicted of rape and sentenced to 30 years for his crime. So Tommy Lee Andrews, first person in the United States, DNA put the plug on. Tim was the first, DNA put the plug on, and it was a death penalty. We're going to pull the plug. Okay, so either way, I find it a dubious title because the first motherfuckers to get got by the DNA machine was some black men. I mean, they were the pioneers, I guess. The OG proven guilty motherfuckers that opened the doors for the rest of the criminal degenerate to get caught up in their shit. Leave behind all the copious amounts of DNA you want. We got some shit that'll test that shit now. I mean, all I can say, if only more testing was being done, more of these criminal motherfuckers might get snatched up. I mean, I'm thinking if ICE really needs something to do, there are some actual dangerous motherfuckers amongst us. But you know what? That's not the point, Nay. New Orleans Nation, I would be remiss while I'm talking about these historical firsts for these black men to not mention that David Vasquez, while he's not a black man, he is a person of color. David Vasquez was also a first. He was the first person in the state of Virginia of any nationality to be freed by DNA testing. Yeah, he was the second in the U.S., but he was the first in Virginia. We knew that Timothy Spencer killed Carolyn Ham and not Davis Vasquez, and DNA brought that to light. Baby, DNA was a game changer. It was so much of a game changer that after this goddamn case, Virginia, the state of Virginia, created their own DNA lab after they won Timothy's case. They was like, oh, this all we need. We ain't finna have to send nothing off to nobody else ever again. We gonna build our own lab and test our own shit. Again, test everything, not selective. Put my soapbox up, put it up. Timothy Spencer had a few more court cases after that first conviction. He was tried in Richmond for Deborah Davis's murder, and they found him guilty on September 22nd, 1988. That's when he caught his second death sentence. And then the following year, he was back on the block for Dr. Hellam's murder. And then he caught his third disconnect notice on January 17th, 1989. Baby. Now, even though they know he killed Carolyn Ham, they didn't charge him with her murder. They just let David out of prison. Now, Timothy Spencer's final court case was for Diane Cho, and once again, he is gifted with a death sentence. This will be his fourth one, right? And so, with 4 to the door, Virginia got right to work on knocking down all of Timothy's appeals. After years and years of telling Tim not only no, but hell to the no, it was finally time to put in that work in this state-sponsored barbecuing. Now, Tim opted to have a last meal of some fried up yard bird, some french fries, and a can of soda. I mean, it ain't really nothing to write home about, but I guess for a last meal, it'll do. Chicken go with everything. Y'all, I'm sorry. I'm low-key happy, like, cause this nigga was ill. Y'all, they fricasseed Timothy Spencer on April 27th, 1994 at the Greensville Correctional Center in Jarrett, Virginia. Now, at the end, Tim didn't have no words for nobody. They said, hey, you want to say something before you go? And he was like, nah, I'm straight. And then they strapped him in, and they rolled on to and turned his water off by passing electricity through his body until he was dead. And that, knew a nation, was the story of Timothy Wilson Spencer. Ooh, child. That was a lot. Like, I am still shocked and amazed that this man was able to do such a terrible crime so quietly. Like, these crimes should have been loud. In my soul, I swear I feel like it was 10 times worse on the victims because they couldn't scream out their pain. To have a motherfucker torture you and no sounds are coming out because he's strangling the breath out of you? Because it takes breath to scream, to moan, to make a sound. All of these murders are horrible. Diane's murder, this shit here blows the fuck out of me because I really feel for her parents and her brother. Like, I hope them people are really okay. Like, I really and truly do hope that they are all right because I don't know that I could be if my kid was murdered in such a horrible way right in the room next door and I didn't hear it. Like, I would beat myself up for life. Like, I ain't never been a suicidal type of person, but I could see it. I could see a pathway to it. I absolutely could. Oh, Jesus. And all of these murders, he was there for hours. Like, these were not quick, fast, kill him up and then you gone. Like, he spent time. That's crazy. Most of these women lived in apartments, and just like Diane Cho, people were around them. Yet in their darkest hour, there was nobody that could help them because nobody could hear them. Baby, I gotta tell y'all this. This story has scared me so much that my windows are going to be closed from here on out. Like, I literally would rationalize that ain't nobody finna climb up to the 2nd or the 3rd floor to break in. But clearly that's a lie. I have dispelled that myth because there is a motherfucker that will absolutely get his Spider-Man on. And we know from doing these stories that where there is one, there is a whole cluster of the motherfuckers. So I would be remiss in thinking that Timothy was a anomaly and it was the only one that would do this. Now, there's some more climbing motherfuckers that will climb and shimmy their way up to your window because they see your window open. And I really do hate that. You know, I will not be going to sleep with my window open anymore. And that's a goddamn shame. Now, Tim wasn't bad looking. I mean, the shit that he did makes him disgusting. But he was not hard on the eyes. Like, this man would not have had no issues getting no cootie cat from no woman at all. But you needed to dominate somebody. You need to torture somebody. Like, you a sick, twisted motherfucker, right? And I don't understand it. You had a good upbringing. Some people are just fucking rotten seeds. They are just born bad because what I didn't tell y'all is that while this was going on, there was also a rash of extremely violent rapes that were going down in these same areas at the same time with a whole bunch of white women that they really think was Timothy as well. Now, this serial rapist had a name. They called this person the Black Masked Rapist, and he was getting it in. I'm talking like 15 assaults, like women's homes being broken into and a man waiting on them and raping them. Didn't kill them, but tied them up and fucked them up and then left. Now, one woman in particular, thank God she did not get raped. She came home, somebody had slit the window and came in, and she found duct tape and a rope and all of this shit that they know is known for this rapist. Like, to come home and see, oh my God, if I had came home an hour earlier, that could have been me. Like, that is crazy. This case triggers me on so many different levels because I have come home and not realized that somebody had been in my house. Like, those days you come home, I ain't cooking, I ain't even went to the kitchen. I lived in a house. Oh my God, this was in South Atlanta. My kids were really young, like maybe, I don't know, 8 and 12, some shit like that. But I came home. I had probably been home for 2-3 hours. It was one of those days I just came in and went in my room. I didn't go in the kitchen for anything. I didn't need anything from the kitchen. But somebody was coming over to pick up something, and whatever it was in the kitchen. So when they got there, I go into the kitchen. We walking in my kitchen. I flip on the light, and my kitchen window over the sink, it ain't there no more. This motherfucker is gone and has been gone. Somebody has been in my house earlier that day, and I didn't even fucking know. Like, scared the bejesus out of me. Luckily, I lived in the hood, and it was some of my son's friends that was breaking in my house because my good ass with his friends always coming up to the house. They was scooping my shit out. So thankfully, it was not a serial killing, serial raping motherfucker that was coming in my shit. But still, nevertheless, when I tell y'all my heart dropped to my ass when I seen that window missing and realizing I've been in this motherfucking house for at least 2-3 hours, ain't even realized I ain't secure, I ain't safe. And they literally took the entire window out, frame and all. But all of that to say, be mindful of your P's and Q's. Be mindful, y'all. Check your house. It's so easy. We get into a routine. You could literally not know that somebody has come into your shit because you ain't go in that particular room. Like, it's rooms in this house that I ain't seen this week. I ain't been in those rooms. Somebody could be living in the attic. I wouldn't know. Check your shit. Because it's very unsettling if you find that somebody has been in your shit. Like, for real. And I think the last thing that really burns my biscuit with this case is that nobody did anything about the rapes. Like, Timothy was not convicted of any of these rapes. There were no tests done on any of the rape kits to prove conclusively that Timothy raped these women. And, you know, my all-time gripe is how we got so many cold cases that are sitting, dying on a shelf somewhere, untested. I don't like conspiracy theories. Innuendo and vague shit pisses me the fuck off. I want to say definitively who did what. Let's do that. Let's run the damn test. Let's see if the DNA matches. Instead, we just heavily suggest some shit and then that becomes fact. A la Wayne Williams and the Atlanta child murders. If he did the shit, show the proof. Other than that, move on. But I'm not going to get on my soapbox because I've talked enough about that. But since we're talking about convictions a little bit, let me hip y'all to an interesting little factoid about David Vasquez, that man that they convicted for killing Carolyn Ham, and then they found out that Timothy actually did the shit. So I told y'all that DNA exonerated David, but that's not really the whole story. David was not exonerated. David was pardoned by the governor of Virginia. He did not get his conviction overturned. And so what that means is because David's case was final, it was ended, all of his appeals had been exhausted, the court system does not actually retry a case just because new evidence comes to light. All they care about is if the trial that they held was legally fair at the time when it went down. The whole, did we get the right motherfucker? that don't really factor in after the train leave the station. They don't care. And in David's case, since DNA testing was not a thing when he went to trial, the court didn't do anything to deprive him of his due process, right? The trial that they held for David, air quotes, was fair and legal. So as far as any new evidence that definitively cleared this man from having done a crime, that shit didn't mean a thing. So the only way for David or anybody else who finds themselves in this predicament to get out of prison for a crime they did not commit is to get a pardon from whoever the power that be, whether that's the governor of the state or the president of the United States. So while it's an absolute irrefutable fact that David Vasquez did not kill Carolyn Ham, he was maliciously served up by an incompetent police department and prosecuted even though there was no evidence of him doing this crime. None of that shit matters. The only way David was going to walk out that prison was if the governor said he could go. And that is absolutely batshit backwards to me. You know I didn't do it. You got the motherfucker that actually did it. And my conviction just doesn't disappear like it should be gone completely and totally. But instead, I gotta wait for somebody to sign a piece of paper to let me out of prison for a crime I 1000% didn't do. And you know I didn't do it. Because understand, people had to write letters on David's behalf in favor for letting him go, persuading the governor to pardon him. The exoneration, the let this man out that we know didn't do it, that shit doesn't happen automatically like the appeal process. I mean, getting out is getting out, full stop, sure. But a pardon is like, oh, my bad, we fucked up. But we ain't gonna go all through the rigmaroles or the legalities, you know what I'm saying? A pardon to me is like the homeboy hookup. Whereas with an exoneration, that's standing on business. That's handling the paperwork in the court systems to say, you didn't do that shit. It's official, signed, sealed, and delivered. But that's our country and that's our judicial system. All right, I'm going to put my soapbox up. I'm sure David Vasquez is just happy that he is out, and hopefully he got a good bag from the state of Virginia for his trouble. So, okay, I'm putting my soapbox up and my everything up. Honey, let's talk about this here on social media. Y'all know how to find me on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. I am Melanin Mayhem Podcast. And on X, I am Melanin Mayhem PC. The email is always open and receiving. It is melaninmayhempodcast@gmail.com. This week's New Ordination shout out goes to Latay, who left a review on Apple. Latay said, "Cousin, girl, the first episode I listened to was Paradise for a Predator. Let me tell you, I started binge listening since then. I so love your storytelling as well as the way you skull drag these mayhem makers. Laugh out loud. Need the comedic aspect with these stories. The crimes are heavy and the comedy relief helps to get through them. I am so happy to be the newest member of the New Nation. Love you, girl. Stay blessed, and I look forward to listening to everything. May you and your family continue to be blessed. Your cuz, Tay." Ooh, hey, Tay. Thank you, girl, for your kind words. I sure appreciate you kicking it with the country, girl. Now, I'm going to try my best to keep giving you my best and deliver these stories like we kicking it across the table from one another, okay? If you keep listening, I promise you, I'm going to keep talking, boo-boo. Now, do what you do. Spread me to everybody you know. Don't be selfish now, cousin Tay. All right, y'all. We are still waiting on the Spotify Mafia to release the ads. I can't wait to see the rollout. I hope that with this week's episode, that it go ahead and starts. I just want to hear them. Again, thank you for all of you for everything that you do. Thank you for all of your support for this little hip podcast of mine. Thank you to all of you who told me that you downloaded Spotify and you let the episodes play while you sleep. Ooh, honey, my heart just skipped a beat. You don't even understand, honey. Me thinking about them streams while y'all dream, it does a sister good. And if anybody else feel like they want to get down with the crew, I sure won't be mad at you, baby. I don't care how you let me play. Love you and the ingenuity, and keep it up because y'all are doing the Lord's work. All right, I have got to get up out of here. I hope to see you guys at the Galantines event. We will talk again before then. Don't forget to get your copy of From Case to Compelling, the ebook, available at melaninmayhempodcast.com. And while you're there, you can pick you up a cute little t-shirt as well. Until we meet again, New One Nation, y'all know how we do it. Go on ahead and stay safe and make sure that you are ever vigilant. And remember this, if you stay ready, you ain't got to get ready. Ooh, it's one love, New One Nation, and your favorite country girl is out of here.
Ooh wee, Nana, you did that.